Are you good? Are we taping?
Oh, you're talking to me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we're good. Anything for you, Deacon.
We're taping early this week. So we're in week 4 of 5 weeks from John's Gospel. And for the first 2 weeks, I was on vacation. So I got to go to different parishes and sit in the pews and listen to someone else preach. And knowing I was preaching this weekend, I was hoping to get some good material, since it's all really the same story, chapter 6 of the Gospel of John. And so the second week, I'll tell you about first. I went to a church in our diocese, and I was all ready. I knew the pastor, and I'm ready for the homily, and I got 25 minutes of restored order of the sacraments. Not exactly what I was hoping for. We've covered it extensively here, and I got to listen to 25 minutes more of it because I think he's just introducing it to his parish. So we're a bit ahead of the curve here. The first week, I went to a parish in Massachusetts, just over the border, and fortunately the deacon of that parish was preaching, so I'm like, oh great. And he gets up and he starts talking about, it was very good homily, he talks about starting chapter 6 and the 5 weeks that we're going to read the 6th chapter of John outside of this year of Mark. And he encouraged all of the parishioners to read chapter 6, which was great. And then he proceeded to discourage everyone by saying, oh, it's really long. Oh, it's the longest chapter in the Bible. Oh, it's 71 verses. Like you could never get through 71 verses in the Bible. I went home and read it. It takes 5 minutes to read the chapter of John. So don't be discouraged. But I think we need a recap, since it's been 4 weeks, and Father Mike will have the homily for the big show next week, the culmination of this chapter. So the first week, we heard Jesus feed the 5,000. John's version of that. And at the end of that gospel, the people wanted to make him king, because he made their bellies full. They were very happy. The second week, they go to him and they say, this is great, you fed us. And he says, yeah, you shouldn't be focusing on earthly food. You should be focusing on heavenly food. And they said, well, what should we do? What are we supposed to do? To do the work of God on heavenly food. And Jesus says, believe in he whom my Father sent. Believe in himself. And they said, well, what sign can you give us? Well, he just fed 5,000. I guess that wasn't good enough. What sign can you give us? Because our forefathers got manna in the desert. And he said, the bread of life, the bread from God. And they said, give us this bread forever. And he says, it's me. You're going to feast on me. And that was the end of week 2. We come back to week 3 last week, Father Bartholomew. And the Jews are murmuring because he said, it's me, I'm the bread. And they're going, this is no good. This is the carpenter. What is this bread stuff that he's going to give us? So they're murmuring, and he says to them, I am the bread of life. Whoever eats my flesh will live forever. The people that ate the manna, he references the manna again, they died. But if you eat me, my flesh, you'll live forever. We go to this week's gospel. They're not murmuring anymore. They're quarreling. This is garbage. What is this stuff about the bread of life? So I'm building up for next week. But that's the recap. So I thought, here I am talking week 4 of this bread of life discourse. What can I say that's different? To make sure that I wasn't redundant, I watched Father Mike's 2 homilies on YouTube. Another 5 minutes each. It was easy to get through. It was like reading chapter 6 of John. I listened to Father Bartholomew last week, and I thought, I want to do something different. Bread of life. What can I do to impress you about bread of life? And then I thought, I got it. Indiana Jones. Everybody familiar with Indiana Jones? I hope. I'm going to spoil the movies if you haven't seen them, but they're from the 80s, so that's your problem. But I assume, this homily assumes you're familiar with Indiana Jones, because if you're not, it won't make any sense to you. One of the things my wife allows me to collect, among other things, is movie props. So if you're familiar with Indiana Jones, this is the cup of Christ. The prop from the movie, not the actual prop, but a replica of the prop from the movie. And if you remember that movie, it was the 3rd one in the series. His father's been shot. And he needs to get the cup of Christ, because if you drink from the cup of Christ, you become immortal. Kind of sounds like live forever, doesn't it? And so the guy before Indy, there's chalices everywhere, there's a guy guarding him, he chooses poorly. He drinks from the wrong cup, a very ornate chalice, thinking this is the chalice of the king. he died right in front of Indy. Well, Indy's got to save his father because he's been shot. So he looks around and he picks the most humble of cups. Because it's not about the chalice. It's about what's in the chalice, the gift that we get from Jesus. And so Indy puts it in the water, drinks, he lives. The guard says, "You've chosen wisely," and he goes and saves his father. What does that have to do with manna and bread from heaven? Well, that's the next part. If you remember the first movie, they're looking for the Ark of the Covenant. But they need the staff of Ra to find where the Ark of the Covenant is. On top of the staff of Ra is this headpiece. It's no good anymore because if you've seen the movie, they find the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant is in some warehouse in Washington, D.C. So we should have a field trip and see if we can go find it. But what you might not know is not only are the Ten Commandments in the Ark of the Covenant, but if you read in Hebrews, it tells us inside the Ark of the Covenant, and I only learned this 2 years ago, the tablets, the Ten Commandments, Aaron's staff, and the showbread, the manna from heaven. That bread was so important to the Israelites in the desert that they kept a piece of it in the Ark of the Covenant with the tablets of God and Aaron's staff. That's how important that showbread was to those people. That's how important this bread of life discourse should be to all of you. That's where I thought I'd go with this before Father Mike gets next week in the culmination of this. So your homework, if you choose to accept it, is read chapter 6 of John's Gospel. If you read your Bible regularly, you know it's easy to read 71 verses. If you maybe don't read it regularly, 5 minutes is all it takes. It's fundamental to our faith and why we believe in the real presence of Jesus on the altar that we're about to experience. That is where our church gets the definition of real presence. So I encourage you to read it. And if anybody wants extra credit, watch Indiana Jones this week.